So we have a debate with the first speeches lasting for 4 minutes, second and third speeches lasting 3 minutes. Each debater has half a minute of protected time in the beginning of the speech and half a minute in the end of the speech. You can recognize it starting and ending with the sound that goes like this. And we do urge people to make POIs. We do urge you to accept POIs even from the audience. And when Peter arrives, then we can start debating. Oh, we're still waiting for Peter.
Sorry?
We're still waiting for a person.
Okay, good.
Easier?
Where's?
Well, let's let him sit down.
Just tell me.
Which is Okay, without further ado, we give the floor to Sergey.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, Team Affirmative strongly believes that Angry Birds, War of Tanks, World of Tanks, Game of Thrones is not the appropriate online game for the young generations. Just because they promote escape from reality, killing pigs, promoting birds, it's not the young generation should be taught to. Therefore, Affirmative said that the House strongly support the motion that paying online games gamers to play games such as e-Republic in order to promote the national identity is a legitimate foreign policy too. Just because, just to establish the framework for debate, we would like to give the basic definitions of the motion. After paying online game, under playing games such as e-Republic, we understand actually all the strategic games which are concentrated on multiplayer games, which are concentrated on the world domination of world competition and international relations. Where the users could compete under a profile of national sovereign states. Under paying online gamers, we support the model, the model will be very simple, that the national governments, the sovereign governments, should pay the users from their countries, from different countries, for playing those games under these users, under the profiles of those national states in those strategic games. So, just as a legitimate foreign policy tool, we understand that it really promotes national identity and increases the image of the country with peaceful, non-violent way, and everything which helps to solve and improve international relations on the basis of peace, friendly and voluntary action and goodwill of the users who actually will do the same, but from the financial support of the government is morally and legally accepted or legitimate. Let me go to the two contentions that we have elaborated in favor of the motion. But before we do that, I'll accept your point, sir.
What are professional soccer players paid in Europe?
Professional soccer guys, we actually do not mean to pay for professional gamers. So it actually cannot be compared to the professional sport or to any kind of professional football or professional activity. We actually, the governments are supporting to pay users, amateurs actually, who actually should play online games, and we should motivate them to play those games and not the most popular ones. So the first thing, consider number one, is that it promotes a national identity throughout the peaceful and universally accepted way. We can just compare that the users that will play strategic games under the national user profiles will have they will fulfill the roles of missioners that are sent through the countries to promote the image, to spread the information without any real aggression. So no military intervention is needed anymore. So no military aggression is needed anymore to solve the problems of the international scene. The users could compete on a virtual space without being involved into the real conflicting, ladies and gentlemen. So no force, they will do that voluntarily, so that they will themselves do that, nobody will force them. So this peaceful way of solving the problem is really crucial here. The second contention that we got elaborated is the improving and enhancing the image of the nations. Who knows, ladies and gentlemen, such small states like Belarus, Belize, some other states which are actually not known completely. Those online games are providing not only with multiplayer and gameplay, but they are providing some history information, basic stuff of politics. So they can actually serve like CIA World Factbook, and the kids or people who will play online game will actually learn something about history, politics, geography, and stuff like that, which improves the image of the nation. For all these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, for the reasons of the goodwill and no aggression, and for the reasons of enhancing the image, we beg you to propose the motion. Thank you.
Okay, sir, so my first question would be, are computer games the only ways to show patriotics?
Not at all, but the most effective one in the virtual area like we have right now, sir.
Okay, do people get paid nowadays for playing on computer devices?
Well, for playing, mostly not. Mostly not. So just mostly they are not they're not paid from external sources actually.
If you're really patriotic, then do you actually need payment to show how patriotic you are?
The problem is not, is if you have heard, sir, from our model, we are not going to pay to our nationals and to our national citizens, but only to the foreigners who will play under our user profiles, on the national profiles. So the patriotism in the virtual and globalized world is shifting a little bit. So we actually promote the new concept of patriotism. That's even the foreigner can be the patriot, even the Russian citizens, I can be the patriot of Zimbabwe, for instance, or Belize, or whatever you prefer.
Okay, and what would other peers or other citizens of Russia think about you if you are playing under other nation and not your real nation?
You know, sir, there is a distinction between reality and virtual space. We promote in our first...
Yes, exactly. So if there is a distinction, then why do we need these games paid for?
Just as we have mentioned in the first argument, sir, to promote, to stop the conflict, to stop the real conflicting situation in the real world, to leave all the competition on a virtual base.
But you have just said that there is a distinction, and now you're talking about real world, but we are talking about virtual world. So is there a distinction, or they are similar? Because I can't get it. There
are differences, but we use the virtual space, these strategic online games to promote national identity, which is a real world, which is part of the real world.
Do you think it's fair? Because some countries have more money than others.
It's absolutely fair because you don't need to pay much for playing for the games player, so it will not require much money.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Let's welcome Scott.
I really do believe there is some distinction between the virtual world and the real world, and that today's government is having some difficulty distinguishing between the two. This would be a disastrous policy. It would actually backfire. I want to first respond to the affirmative case and then present a case of the negatives. They said first that they would like to define some terms, and they talked about what legitimate would be, and legitimate would be serving the national identity. I think that that's okay, but I do have a problem with their paying people as being a legitimate foreign policy exercise, paying people to participate in sports as being a legitimate foreign policy exercise. Let's look at the word legitimate and try and figure out what it means. How do you know what legitimate means? You look at things that have happened in the past. Things like the Olympics, things like the World Cup, and people who have represented their national teams in these situations are not paid. That's how you determine what is legitimate in terms of sports and foreign policy. And in this particular case, paying people to play sports for your country would be an illegitimate policy. In a minute. Amateurs are simply not paid. I think that they make a gross mistake by implying that amateurs are not paid. That's the fundamental distinction between a professional and an amateur, is that amateurs play for the love of the sport and not for pay. He said that it would enhance the image of a country. First, this is not compelling because it enhances the image right now. Korea has the reputation around the world as being the country of gamers, with or without paid players. I'll take your question now.
I would like to ask you, is it legitimate to pay a foreign PR agent to create an advertisement, a TV advertisement for your country?
I don't think that that's relevant in any way. We're talking about players, people who represent your country on the field of play. I think that the second reason that this would not enhance the image of a country is that the pay itself would undermine that. For example, the best player might not play because they don't get paid enough. And this is especially true when he says, well, you won't even take your own nationals to be on your team. Under this theory, Qatar will have the best team in the world, full of people from Korea who are the best players in the world. I don't know how that is a legitimate tool of foreign policy. Like I said, this is happening already without the affirmative, without the motion. Korea has a lot of national prestige because of their players. I would like to now offer our new material. We'll offer a counter motion. There should be a national Olympics that should be purely amateur in electronic and online gaming. That would get all of the benefits of the affirmative without any of the disadvantages. I think this is a much better policy and is the one that should be embraced. The reason we should embrace it is that it would not get the following disadvantages. First disadvantage is doping. When there's pay, there'll be pressure to use drugs to enhance performance. Cocaine and methamphetamine will be used for online games. This will hurt athletes. It will hurt the young people that emulate them. Second, it also makes this a career choice. And when I tell my 13-year-old kid to get off the Xbox, he's going to say, no, I want to represent the United States. No, wait a minute, I want to represent Qatar someday because they pay so well on their game. And I don't think that that's something that children should particularly aspire to. Third, there would be an unfair playing field because countries with the most resources, with the best internet connection, which is why perhaps Korea does better, they would have a huge advantage over other countries. And at this point, I don't think it's fair that, say, Lesotho has to compete against Korea or Qatar when they have an inherently unfair advantage. That is our case for the day. I'll take any cross-examination questions.
Do you have any questions?
You have 3 minutes left.
Thank you for a brilliant speech, but now I'd like to ask you some questions. First of all, can you tell me, is it important that a country wins in these online games?
I think that if you did have an international competition, winning would bring prestige to a country, but the means through which they won would also play a great part. And if people playing for the United States are all from a different country.
Thank you. So it's basically important that a country wins and it really enforces its prestige on the international arena.
Yeah, I think if it's not my own players, it's a different kind of prestige. I'm the richest country in the world.
Imagine a situation if a user logs into this game and he sees that some country has won a lot of trophies in the game. Will he be interested in this country?
Interested in getting paid by that country?
No, interested
yes.
in this country as a whole. If he haven't ever heard about this country, will he be interested to get to know about it?
Most people aspire to live in Qatar, not for the weather, but for the money.
Okay, but if he hasn't ever heard of Qatar, and now he looks at this online game map and sees that Qatar is a great country, will he be interested to get to know something about Qatar?
I think the contract and how much he would be paid would be the main thing that
All right, thank
he
you.
or she would be worried about.
Can you tell me, do people pay for, what is the difference of paying for PR agents to make some video promoting the country, foreign PR agents, and paying the gamers to play for this country in the online game?
I think there's a big difference. Sport is about the metaphor comes from sport, a level playing field. And when you preserve amateurism, you preserve the level playing field.
Oh, okay.
People are not being paid. When it comes to promoting tourism in a country, yeah, it probably is a little unfair that one country can buy better public relation agents than another, but I think it's a different...
Okay, so do you think that as far as it really promotes some country national interest, it's more about PR, not about sports in this case?
It's a great PR opportunity if I have people so committed to my country that they're going to practice, commit themselves without pay. That's much better PR, much more legitimate PR than just paying some hired gun from another country to represent my national country.
Okay, thank you.
Judge ready? You have 3 minutes.
Opponents ready? The opponent's case is like a penguin. It is cute, but it simply won't fly. Hi, my name is Taylor Lee from Team Mad Beavers, and I'd like to have this motion passed. First of all, I'd like to go over our points and then go over theirs. We say that it's willing and peaceful way to promote national identity. This is one of the strongest points of today's debate. It is legitimate because it is a peaceful way for us to spread our national identity to other people. Furthermore, by making it paid, it's actually willingly allowed for people to do it. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. We're actually paying them if they want to. Furthermore, there's a huge controversy on how there will be professional players, but we never stated how much you will be paid. It could be €2, it could be €1. It's different for every country. Zimbabwe doesn't have to pay the same as England. It's different. Now I'd like to move on to our second point. We say that it's a promotion of national identity. It's the same as sending ads to other countries such as Visit California, Land of the Oranges. It's the same as any brochure that we send out. We're sending out things to promote our nation. It's the exact same. Just because we're in a new information age doesn't mean we have to change these things. Now I'd like to go over, yes?
And is it a gamer's job, their livelihood, to actually make advertisements for a certain customer?
Could you rephrase that?
Is it a gamer's obligation? Their job
No, it's not a
livelihood
gamer's.
to make advertisements?
A gamer doesn't make advertisement. I don't understand that question. Now I'd like to move on to our opponent's contentions. They say that if you are not patriotic, then you don't have to be paid. But first of all, we never stated how much you have to be paid. It could be €1. You can still be patriotic and just take that euro. You don't even have to be paid. Furthermore, just because you're paid doesn't mean patriotic people won't do it. They also said it's not fair because some countries will pay differently, but we never stated how much you need to pay. It could be 50 cents, it could be €1. The pay isn't different. Furthermore, just because a policy is unfair to certain countries doesn't mean it's illegitimate. Just because America can have better diplomat schools and send out better diplomats to make peaceful relations doesn't mean it's an unfair policy for America to have diplomats. They also say that Olympic players are not paid, but I find this untrue, as Olympic athletes that win medals such as gold medal, silver medal, and bronze medal, they get certain money from winning their country medals. They also say that pay is important. That is the main opponent's case, that pay is important, and the playing field would be unadvantaged because some people will be paid more. But again, this is a policy to help promote national identity. The pay does not matter. It does not matter if they are professional players, because even if they are professional players, they are promoting national identity. They also said that, they said some random point about how people will start taking drugs because of playing, but I find this completely irrelevant. If I'm a professional gamer, or even a gamer in general, I'm not going to be high on cocaine and playing a game. That's obviously completely irrelevant, so their only point that stands is that there will be an unfair playing field that I have proved is false. For these reasons and many more, I strongly affirm this resolution that we should promote national identity in a legitimate way. Thank you.
There's cross-examination.
Yes.
In the World Cup of Soccer, the players that play for Mexico are from Mexico. Is that not the case?
I don't follow soccer, so I don't know.
The people who compete in the Olympics for Russia are from Russia. Is that not so?
Sure.
Okay. The people that compete in the Olympics are not paid as professional athletes. They're only paid when they get a medal by the Olympic Committee. Is that so?
Sure.
And they get paid the same whether they're from Zimbabwe or whether they're from Canada. Is that not so?
No, it depends on what the country pays them. It's not the international community that pays Olympic winners.
The Olympic winners do get paid by the Olympics, and it's the same whether they get paid by one or the other. But whether they're from one country or another. Do you know the motion? Could you read it for me?
Paying gamers to play online games such as Roman or something.
So the word paying is in there,
Yes.
right? And pay is €1 is what you've suggested now.
The pay can be anything depending on what the
And you
country
think
sees
that
fit.
the affirmative can advocate just paying €1?
Yes.
Okay. And is that what you're advocating? Is that these people get paid €1?
We're advocating that the pay is different for every country and what the government
Okay,
deems
so you don't prevent Qatar from paying $500 million to the best gamer.
It depends if they want to promote their national
So
identity.
Qatar can do that.
Sure.
Okay, very good. Did you provide? Did you object to our idea of legitimacy being things that have happened in the past? Did you say that there was anything wrong with the way we set up the term legitimacy? We said you look to the past to other events.
Sure, even if you look at how we
No,
send out...
in your speech, did you object to our argument that said that legitimacy is based on previous events?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, everyone set? Alright. And let's get started. And just on a note, penguins don't really need to fly. They glide on their bellies quite well. Now, penguins notwithstanding, what I'm going to do is touch briefly on the illegitimacy point and then just go down the line. First addressing their defense of their case and then defending our own negative substantive matter. So first of all, illegitimately, it's inherently illegitimate because again, these people, and this will be folded in with refutation, these people do not, if you're paying people, basically it doesn't match what has happened in the past. in that today we don't see computer gamers being paid to promote national identity. We don't see athletes being paid to promote national identity. We see them being paid for their results, for their talent, and the amateur model, as Side Affirmative agreed, is the predominant model in competition. Now, on their defense, they had two things. Is number one, that these people are willing, we're not contesting that point. However, that they are only paid if they want to be, makes sense, and that the pay is not really specified. But let's think about this. If you're only going to be paying people €1 to promote your national identity, how many takers are you really going to be getting? So we think that Side Affirmative, even though we don't call for a specific number, inherently has to acknowledge that they need to be paying a substantial amount as an incentive in order to get people to promote their national identity. Otherwise, it's a wasted effort. Now, on this being the same as advertising, when I ask, is it a gamer's obligation to be a PR agency? No, it's not. Because otherwise we would simply call them a PR agency. A gamer's duty, a gamer's objective is to play games. If they happen to get paid or enjoy it as they're doing it, that's their prerogative. But they are not paid to create advertisements. Now, moving on to defending our case is this goes on two of the points that just because they're not patriotic, we're not contesting that, but again, you have to have some sort of substantial number to act as an incentive. And secondly, the pay not specified, inequality is not necessarily illegitimate. We do find it to be because, again, that goes back to the idea of the level playing field and the precedent that we see in gaming and sports competition today. Now, finally, the next 2 points is on the doping. We see people neglecting themselves, we see people neglecting their families, especially in South Korea, in the United States, where people have actually been killed because of neglect, because of the excessive focus on the games. We see no reason that taking cocaine to make yourself stay up for hours and hours on end and have a rush and have faster reflexes, we don't see how this is not a far stretch. And secondly, it makes online gaming a legitimate career choice. Number one, there's just not as much prestige attached to that as more traditional alternatives. And secondly, in a recession where this is more of an optional, a luxury activity, we don't think that online gaming should be promoted, at least not yet, as a legitimate, stable career choice, especially for young gamers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We've got some questions here. First, do you consider Olympics as a fair competition?
As a what competition?
Olympics, Olympic Games. You've mentioned National Olympics. So do you consider Olympics as a fair competition?
Yes.
Okay. So do you consider that the United States, if the United States, China, and Russia won up to 80% of the medals in Winter or Summer Olympics, is it fair competition to promote the national identity?
Not if they're going to be paying their athletes to do so.
Yeah, no, but it will be sufficient to promote. Okay, how is it possible to promote national identity for Brazil or for Zimbabwe in Winter Olympics game, for instance, when they do not have the chance to take part in?
That's their loss. Really.
Okay, so they lost. So you actually do not have the cure for that. Good. So the other people playing strategic games are to win, or just to take part in that, or using the Olympic principle. Just participation means more than win.
For many people.
Yeah, the online game is for participation or for who win.
They're doing it for the participation, and winning is just a side benefit.
How can you prove that the winning for guys? So have you ever played a strategy game and you didn't want to win in that?
I love Age of Empires, but I know I'm not going to win every game because I suck.
Good. Okay. It's not okay. Age of Empires in the modern time, when the United States are competing with Russia, whatever, China, whatever, the world domination, right? Will play more frequently for the states for the States, for Russia, for China, or for instance for Zimbabwe, for Belize, whatever. For you will be playing for superpowers or for small powers in the strategic games.
It's really going to depend on the gamer's preference.
Okay, but if you would like to win over world domination, will we play for superpowers more? Do you agree on that?
Not necessarily. They're going to look at the system and figure out ways to hack the system, whether they're using superpowers or developing countries.
Do you consider that if people will be played at least €1, that will be too much for Zimbabweans to play for Belize, whatever?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Just if they will pay Zimbabweans €1 per day, for instance, for credit per day playing, will be enough motivation for them to play for small states?
I don't think it will be.
Okay, I guess so.
How much cup time do we have?
2 minutes.
You have 2.5. You have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. Just to stay in my place. And they don't use money. Just like just to say. Because yes. So it's doesn't
You have half a minute. Okay, your time is up.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry. So, good afternoon, all ladies and gentlemen. I would like to summarize today's debate by pointing out four main clash points of the round: the amateur model of our team, the legitimacy of our idea, and the inequality issue, and the drug taken. So let's start with the amateur model and why we think it really is an amateur model, and why we think that it is legitimate to implement this amateur model in this case. First of all, we have already stated several times that it will be the free will of the people to take this money or not to take them. So they are definitely amateurs and not professionals who do it for their living. So it means that these gamers do not really do it for money and because they only get money. Now, thank you. And money will actually be one of the stimulus for them, because the Olympic Games sportsmen that they have quoted in every of their speeches, they for them making money of these Olympic prizes may be also one of the motivations to compete, but the main motivation is the game itself, as they have pointed out. And for the gamers using the strategic games, it's also the game itself, and they will take money as one of the motivation, but still they will be competing willingly, no thank you, and trying to promote their countries or other countries' national identity, no matter how much money this country will afford to pay them. And for some countries, even €1, as we have said, is a pretty much sum of money. The second area of clash, is it a legitimate way to advertise our country? Okay, go on.
My son loves Chicharito, who's a Mexican football player. Is it likely that his heart would be broken if he was bought to represent the United States in the World Cup?
I don't think so, because I think that your son will still love this soccer player, or I don't know who is here, and it doesn't really matter where he plays. Maybe I'm not a soccer fan, sorry, I can't answer your question properly. Talking about the legitimacy to advertise it, we have proved it, that it is really legitimate because it does not violate any of the laws, it doesn't violate peace. It doesn't. It is just fine to advertise it like this. And talking about the point of inequality, there is inequality now, and we have proved it to you. And it is much less unequal than that it is now, because paying for the online gaming is much easier than making a sportsman to win the Olympics. And talking about the point of taking drugs, people are taking drugs even now, anyway, as our opponents approve them. That means that they're taking drugs just to stay in line and play, not because someone pays them money to stay in line and play, but just because they enjoy this game process. And so there will be no stimulus for them to take drugs under our model. So due to all these reasons, due to the fact that legitimacy will rule the world if our model wins, we beg you to propose. Thank you for your time.
Have a little bit over 2 minutes.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm doing right now? Yes, I'm a beggar. I'm begging for money. You know what I'm doing right now? I'm a homeless, searching for some house to live. What would you say if you're a homeless people, if you need money, you're begging for money, and the government pays stupid player to play stupid games? It's simply not fair. Anyway, we defined legitimacy. they accepted it in the cross-examination. We defined as something like a precedent, and we connected it with the Olympic Games. Professional Olympic players do not get paid because they are paying in the national team, as instead we would distribute payment to the computer gamers. So it is not legitimate. Second of all, in the first cross-ex, the first speaker said, okay, I'm probably from Russia, but I would like to play under another nationality. But ladies and gentlemen, as the precedent shows, in the Olympic Games, as in the second cross-ex, they also admitted Russians from Russia. So it is not legitimate because you would play under another nationality. And third of all, ladies and gentlemen, it is unfair, and that's why it can't be considered legitimate because they do not get equal payment. In the Olympics, sportsmen, footballers get payment from the Olympic Committee, and they do get the same payment. In this case, the country who has the most money, who is more powerful, would get more payment. No thanks. So would give more payment to the sportsmen, to the computer gamers, and that's why it's absolutely unfair. And again, the third speaker said that we need to pay them in order to secure stimulus. I'm questioning them. So when you need to get payment as an incentive, then do you play because of your patriotics? And pretending that you are patriotics just because of getting payment, is it legitimate? Is it moral, ladies and gentlemen? Absolutely not. And another thing, once they said they would like to pay €1, and then they said it could be a stimulus. Really? Do you think that €1 or 50 cents can be considered a stimulus? I don't think so. So the other thing, if we are paying for computer gamers, they would like to play computer on and on. They would never stop it because they get payment, and that's why they would like to use drugs, they would like to use speed, and it's absolutely immoral and illegitimate. And just think of your children, jurors, please. You do not have children probably, but just think your children in the future. Would you like them to play computer games? Would you like them to play computer games as a career and not learning, not educate themselves, just sitting on the computer and play with some stupid games? I don't think so. So please vote for the opposition. Thank you very much.